ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me, Mr. Harvey Kingston.
Good evening, everyone. Bienvenue. We are in for a real treat this weekend, beginning already with Annie Letourneau, and now our first opportunity as a family to greet one of our keynote speakers for the weekend. Randy Harvey is no stranger to District 61, but let me give you a little bit of his background for those of you who may be joining us for the first time. We have the privilege of presenting to you the 2004 World Champion of Public Speaking. This is his third visit to this district because of the impact that he leaves each time he is here. He is a very powerful and effective and real communicator. A bit about his family background and where is he from? Well, he's traveled a long distance to be here tonight, beginning a couple of days ago now from Portland, Oregon in the United States, where he has a very successful law practice and is well known throughout not just the United States and not just in Canada, but throughout the world as being an extremely powerful keynote speaker and coach. In his profession as a lawyer, he coaches lawyers to more effectively communicate for the benefit of their clients and in the court system. As a past world champion, he has devoted many years to providing the ideal role model to those of you who aspire to be more effective communicators and therefore, at the end of the day, better leaders. I'd ask you please to welcome to Canada, and then to Quebec City, and then to Mont-Ste-Anne. Would you please welcome our special guest, Dr. Randy Harvey.
Bonjour. Messieurs and mademoiselles. I practiced that all day. As you know, I'm Randy Harvey and I'm from Oregon. I'm going to teach you all first thing. Today's lesson is about speaking well. So we're going to start by learning how to pronounce Oregon. Oregon is the most beautiful state of the United States. It's very green because it rains a lot. That's why our two universities, I am from Le Canal de l'Université de Oregon. I took me all afternoon to learn that. But our two universities, mascots, one is the duck, and the other, or the canard, and the other is the beaver. They both have wet feet, because Oregon is always wet. I'm going to talk to you tonight about public speaking and some bad habits that we want to break. But also, it won't take me very long to do that with you. I'll break you of your bad habits very quickly. I was a middle school principal for years before I became a lawyer. It was good training for being a lawyer. Before I was a middle school principal, that's grades 6, 7, and 8 in the States, I was a hog farmer, and that was the best training for being a middle school principal. Oh, you've had adolescents in your house. Tonight we're going to talk about breaking yourself of some habits like You hear someone go, they're speaking to an audience or they're speaking to the city council, and they say, tonight, we're going to talk about, we have a president who's known for being a very good speaker, which he's really not. Before you boo me, a couple of years ago I was speaking in district to the east of here, and I was criticizing some of our political candidates in the state, or representatives, Barack Obama being one of them. Someone asked me, is Barack Obama a good speaker? And I said, no. And I got booed. Seriously, I got booed by Toastmasters. It was unexpected. But I told you I've been a middle school principal, so it didn't bother me a bit. I just looked at it and I said, well, He's not. He's a good reader. He reads the teleprompter. So the next time you see him on television, you watch him when he speaks, he goes like this. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. He never looks at the camera or at the center. Why? Because he's reading the teleprompter. So anyway, I got booed. I got booed by Toastmasters. Because that was when Barack Obama was very popular in Canada. It may still be. And in fact, after I presented and after I got booed, they said to me, you know, 86% of the Canadians would have voted for President Obama for president. I said, oh, that makes sense. So the next day when I delivered my keynote, I apologized to the audience for describing Barack Obama's poor speaking skills. And I pointed out to them that I now understood that 86% of Canadians would have voted for Barack Obama for president. I just wanted to point out 56% of Americans would have voted for him for Prime Minister of Canada. So, it's true. Now that number's about 76%. In fact, we would loan him to you for free. I pick on all speakers. I picked on George Bush. He was such an easy target. Bill Clinton was a very good speaker. Ronald Reagan was a very good speaker. Some very good speakers. Well, tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about some bad habits we have, like You ever have to break yourself some Yeah? Raise your hand if you're an hummer. How many of you are utters? Are you utters? No, that was my favorite saying when my mom said, Randy, did you take the garbage out? I said, is this a multiple choice question? How many of you, now this is, I'm going to tread a little bit on Canada here. Is that okay? You do it differently up here. I thought I spoke Canadian when I learned to say eh. Eh? You know what I mean? Eh? And some of you are not laughing because you don't use eh in Montreal. You say le. Or if you go north of here, you go la la, la la. He's a lawyer, la la. Right? In the United States, we don't say lawyer, la la. We say lawyer, liar. Lawyer, liar, lawyer, liar, lawyer, liar, lawyer, liar. How do you know a lawyer's lying when his lips are moving? And then I like this, and I heard this here too. A boot. A boot. It's a boot. If you're a Scotsman, you say boot man. Boot man. Or I have an idea. Now up here you say I have ID. Well, in the States when we have ID, usually a police officer is asking me for it. And I see your ID. They're going to write your ticket. Well, the key to breaking yourself of these habits, if you want to, now not everybody wants to break themselves of the habits. The key to breaking yourself of these habits is very simple, but it's also very nice. Okay? I need a volunteer. Just raise your hand. Oh, she's much prettier than you are. Linda, would you lift that up a little bit so I can look at it? Thank you. Toastmasters, you got to learn not to hang those signs on women down here. You men get into trouble for that. Oh, Linda. I want to show you this marvelous piece of workmanship here. It is a dog training clicker. You push on, I want to check it. Very good. Now, when I say any of the words on this list, I want to hear that. La. La. Oh. La la. She's pretty good. The best way to train yourself from saying la, so. Oh, that's a word you misuse, I think. Because you didn't click. Or maybe you maybe. What I want to... You see how quickly it works? Almost. La la. I think you owe me a click there. You keep that, darling. Thank you so much. All of a sudden the lights went out. Is there a reason for that?
It's too bright back here.
Oh, it's too bright back there? You know what it really was, is they didn't want me to see them. Because as a middle school principal, I know where the trouble happens. Right back there at designated. The key to effective speaking, oh, by the way, I asked Harry to leave this up here. One reason I like the name, they spell funny. I wish I would have known how they spell in Canada when I was a child. Because I could have explained to my mother those 4 grades I got in spelling tests. So I'm Canadian! That's the way Canadians spell. The correct way. Please. But I did do research at the University of Oregon when I was working on my PhD, and for all of you who struggle like me with spelling, I want you to know that it is scientifically proven that there is no correlation between spelling and intelligence. It's true. It's true. There's not. And actually, some of the worst spellers have the best secretaries. Tonight I want to talk to you about things that are important to you. Now, not everyone in this room is going to be a world champion someday. But many of you joined Toastmasters because you wanted to learn how to express those things that exist deep in your heart. See, I believe in every human being's life there's a compelling desire to express what we most care about, what is so important to us. The message that we want the world to know about us, that message, that singular message that says in the great eons of time that we were here. Don't you want to leave that message? Don't you want to have that little touch of immortality? So that one day when you are gone and you're resting sweetly under the earth, someone will say, I am this way in my life because of that. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Well, there's a way that you can do that. And it involves some commitment on your part. But tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about how do we develop those messages that are so important to us that make us completely unique. Are you interested? Yes. I have your interest? Well, the secret to becoming a wonderful speaker, a speaker that people like to listen to, is very simple. Anybody in this room ever have difficulty finding topics to speak about? Raise your hand. Any of you actually write a speech in your car on your way to Toastmasters? I've never done that. You know, body language, if someone tells you they didn't do something and they're doing this, you know, like, sweetie, did you eat the last cookie? No. I didn't. Lawyer or liar? Okay. 3 questions. 3 questions for you. Now, the secret to being a powerful, compelling speaker is to master your topic. Master your topic. What is the topic, you say? Did I hear someone say that? What is the topic that I need to master? Well, here it is. 3 questions. First question, second question, third question. No, I'm not talking about a former president of the United States. Think about that for a minute, it'll come to you. Who? Are you getting ahead of me over there? What? Where? Oh, you're thinking of a famous author. said, my friends are who, what, where, and why. No, that's not it. First question, who are you? Who are you? Now, if you want to master a topic that the world is interested in listening to, master this topic. Who are you? And what I mean by asking that question is, what is the philosophy that you live your life by? Now, philosophy is kind of a interesting word. It means a collection of wisdom. A collection of wisdom. Think about this. Some of us are a little long in the tooth. Is that a Canadian use that phrase? It means old. We've got a long tooth here. We're saber tooth. We're old. And because we're old, we've lived a long time and we've collected a lot of wisdom, right? When you're young, you learn not to put your hand on a stove, a hot stove, correct? How did you learn that? Right? And the real scientific ones went, well, I don't believe that happened. Twice, right? After you've done it once or twice, you don't do it again. You've collected the wisdom. Stove hot, burns out. You don't do it again. Well, here's the thing. Every human being on the face of the planet has a philosophy. Only about 1% of us know what it is, because we don't take the time to think about who we are. What is it that we believe? What makes us uniquely ourselves? Now, for some of us who are parents, I have 3 grown children, 7 grandchildren, soon to be 8. My grandchildren call me Fat Dad. We'll talk about that at some point. But all I need to know about my philosophy is look at my son, because he's just like me. And I say to him, where did you learn that? You. In fact, he called me the day before I flew up here and said, well, Ezra, that's my youngest grandson, Ezra got into trouble in school. And I said, oh, what happened? He said, he's in kindergarten. The teacher said, Ezra, it's time for you to take a nap. Everyone else is taking a nap. And Ezra said, I'm not sleeping. And the teacher, being a wise teacher, or not so wise teacher, as for Ezra's concerned, says, well, Ezra, if you don't go down and take a nap, you won't get to watch the movie on Friday. To which he said, I don't want to watch the movie on Friday. And he said some other things which weren't appropriate for a 4-year-old addressing an adult. And so when he got home, he was treated to a hickory stick waltz. Do you have those up in Canada? A piece of kindling applied to your backside. You sing along. And so my son is telling me this story on the phone, and I say to him, sounds like my son. I only have one son. I'm talking to him on the phone. He instantly realized who I was talking about and started laughing because he did the same thing. And oh, by the way, his father did too. That's how he became a world-class speaker, talking back to teachers. Now, that's how I became a contract negotiator and a lawyer, talking back to teachers. This philosophy that we have, you can dig into your life. Think about all the decisions that you've made in the last 7 days. All the decisions you made, your interactions with people you love and you care about, your interactions at work, and ask yourself, why did I do that? Why did I do that? And what you'll find is that somewhere in your experience, in your mind, you'll go back to a belief that you have, a piece of wisdom that you collected that directs your thinking on that topic. So that is the collection of wisdom. And by the way, it's a lot of fun to learn this about yourself. Right? It's a lot of fun to learn why you do things, say things, are things the way you are. Have you ever heard your father say something to you, and you say to yourself as a child, well, I'm never going to do that with my kids? Do you have kids, and did you do that? Of course. Right. My father always said, do as I say, not as I do. Well, I'm never saying that to my kid. more than 1,000 times. Right? My kids said, I love this. We disciplined our children when they were growing up. We spanked them when they were naughty. They never got spanked until they were about 6 years old. They didn't need them anymore. They learned the lesson, right? Well, my son said, I'm never going to spank my children. Well, Ezra talked back to his teacher, and guess what? He got into trouble. And the wisdom that was passed down, the person that you are today is a result of the wisdom that you've collected over your life. So, topics. Number one, think about the wisdom that you've collected in your life and start writing it down. Because you have a set of collected wisdom for your family environment, for your business environment, for your work environment, for your friends, that circle of friends you work with. You have a collection of wisdom. One of the pieces of wisdom I learned from my father was this. When they call me, I will come. For my own family, I have a rule in my law practice that if my wife calls on the telephone, it doesn't matter what I'm doing or who I'm with, unless I'm in federal court, my secretary puts the call through and I excuse myself and I talk to my wife. Because I know she's the most important human being in my life. And in fact, when my kids were growing up, they got tired of hearing me saying, hey, it's between you and mom, do this. Right? You know, I can create another one just like you, but her, it's a long-term investment. I actually did say that to my children. So, who are you? What is the collected wisdom? What is the collected wisdom? Start writing it down. What did you learn from your parents about the significant other in your life? What did you learn from your parents about your children? Explore those things. And you discover things. Sometimes when we get older, we forget how much fun it was to be young, and how much of a pain it was to be young. But when you start exploring this collection of wisdom, some wonderful things start to happen. So the second question. The second question is, what are you about? I know how to speak Canadian. You taught me that. What are you about? What are you about? What are you about has to do with the core values, the rules that you've adopted for your life. These are the things that you believe in and live your life by. You've taken the wisdom that you've collected and you synthesized it down to a set of core values, a set of rules that you live your life by. And you live your life by those rules automatically. So let me give you an example. How many of you believe, or let me save that for just a second. So let's go to the third question. Third question is, where did you learn that? Where did you learn that? Now, that's Oregonese. To say it properly, you say, where did you learn that? We say, where did you learn that? Jeff learned that. Where did you learn that? Now, why is that question important? Where did you learn that? We've come to understand that those core values that you hold, those rules that you live your life by, can be traced back to a person or an event in your life. To a person or an event in your life. The things that you hold most strongly and most dearly in your life, the rules that you live your life by, and in fact, in some circumstances, those things that you believe in so strongly that you would sacrifice your life before you give up that core value. We have those. We hold those. We keep them dear. And we don't usually take the time to learn what they are. Now, the difference between a core value and a belief is that a core value is something that you believe in so strongly you may sacrifice your life rather than give up that core value. It's a truth. It's a belief. It's something you believe in so strongly that you will not surrender that core value to anyone. Let me give you an example. It's my favorite example. Imagine the Twin Towers standing over 1,000 feet tall. And they're 300 kilometers apart. Meters. The 300, we use feet and inches. Let's say it's 300 meters apart, 1,000 feet in the air. And across between these two buildings is a 3-inch steel cable. It's January, and it's snowing. The wind is blowing at 15 kilometers. Who in this room, without the aid of a net, a parachute, or any safety device, who in this room would walk across that steel cable 300 meters to the other building unassisted by any safety device? 1,000 feet in the air, 50-mile-an-hour crosswind, and it's snowing. Anyway, raise your hand if you would do it for €1 million. I always have one fool in the back, and he's back at that table. We'll all be at the bottom with a shovel taking care of the poor old guy who walked across the cable for $1 million that they never collect. All right. Well, that tells me there's only one person who has a core value that $1 million is worth risking your life. Right? Only one person. We'll all buy insurance on you and we'll get the $1 million. Now, so let me change the scenario to illustrate the difference between a core value and a belief. Right? Now, on the other side, at the top of that building, 1,000 feet in the air, snowing, wind blowing, is your 15-month-old child hanging by their fingertips, about to fall. Now, who in the room would go across that cable to rescue that child? Raise your hand. Some of you are holding out. Which child is it? I have one of those. I've asked that question before. The difference is that the people in this room have as a core value to protect the innocent, to save those who can't save themselves. And you would go across that table. You might shinny, right? Holding on, arms and legs, and scooting across. But you would go across in an attempt to save that child. That's a core value. That's something you believe in so strongly that you would sacrifice your life rather than let that child fall to their death. Core value. One of the last conversations between Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. Martin Luther King Jr. was fighting for civil rights using Mahatma Gandhi's principles of nonviolent resistance. And Malcolm X was in favor of civil rights by whatever means. He would take up the gun, the sword, whatever. On this day, their last conversation, Malcolm X looked at Martin Luther King Jr. and said, "We both want to accomplish the same thing, but we are going about it in different ways. But we are both dead men." 3 months later, Martin Luther King Jr. died by the assassin's bullet. 3 years later, Malcolm X was assassinated as well. Now, on that day, when Malcolm X was speaking to Martin Luther King Jr., both men had it in their power to walk away from that core value. They could have said, "I'm done. It's too dangerous. The price is too high." But instead, they believed so strongly in the principle of civil rights, the equality of human beings, that Martin Luther King Jr. would walk to the assassin's bullet as did Malcolm X. They were at a crossroads at one point in their lives when they could make a decision. Is what I believe in, is my core value, important enough for me to continue on this path that I might surrender my life? And both men said yes. So today, we live in a different world. I say a different world because Martin Luther King's world is known around the world, literally. I've discussed him in the People's Republic of China. They know him there. They know his words. In Hong Kong, they know his words. In Saudi Arabia, they know his words. In Qatar, in Jordan, they know his words. Because he was true to his core value and his belief. Now, why is that important? Because you may not agree with me. You may not believe what I believe. You may not accept my particular brand of truth. But you will always accept the fact that it is truth to me. So I can speak truth based on my core values and beliefs. And even if you disagree with me, you will know that it is the truth that guides my life. And that makes it powerful. Do you think you can talk passionately about your core values? Of course. There's not another topic that you can talk more passionately about. Do you agree with me? I mean, can you truly be passionate about something you don't believe in? If you are, you're a liar, you're a fraud. Toastmasters, if you want to have audience listen to you, talk about the things that are most important to you. Your truths, your core values, and your beliefs. Now, the third question here is, where did you learn that? And let's talk about why that's important. I've already told you that all of our core values can be traced back to a person or an event in our life, correct? Do you think that your experience is different than the experience of other people in learning that piece of wisdom? Well, I'm going to tell you it probably is. So let's experiment. How many of you remember in your life when you learned not to lie? Come on, raise your hand. This is a safe environment for Toastmasters. Right? We've been in tall tales contests before. Okay, here's an easy one. How many of you remember in your life when you learned not to steal? Raise your hands. Notice all the liars and thieves in this room. Toastmasters. The recidivism rate is high in this room. I'm going to say. Here's an easy one. It's non-threatening. How many of you remember in your life when you learned not to backtalk your mama? Maybe you have the same experience I did. I walked around like this. Right? Well, but in the 50s and 60s, it wasn't childhood. Right? Your child backpacking and you slap him. You know what I learned from that experience? You're going to backtalk your mom and don't stand too close. Later I learned, make sure, point number one, when you're going to backtalk your mom, don't stand too close. Rule number one. I learned the hard way later, rule number two. Make sure your papa's not in the room. I learned that lesson too. So now, if you get backtalk your mom, don't stand too close and make sure Dad's not around. And then I learned the third rule. Make sure your mother has nothing in her hand. It wasn't abuse, but it was a wet dish rag popping right upside the face. Well, you see, I just told you 3 stories about not backtalking your mom. And they're all true. They're all my stories. And I bet if I were to hand the microphone around, you could tell some pretty good stories about not backtalking your mom. Couldn't you? Huh? Hey? Hey? Lie? Well, you're a liar? Of course. It is these stories that teach our own sacred truths. The things that we hold sacred in our own life. I told you one of my core values, if they call me, I will come. What that means is if one of my children calls me, even though they're adults, they call me and they need me to come, I will drop what I'm doing and I will go. Started when they were in school. If they were at a party and the person they went with was drinking and they were going to get in the car, guess what? Papa, would you come get me? Absolutely, be there in 20. I'd go get them. When my daughter was newly married and her car broke down beside the road, the cable that connected the carburetor and the gas pedal broke. Her husband, her new husband, was with her. And he didn't know what to do. Papa, will you come get me? I came. I saw. I took my belt off. I tied it to the cable. Lifted the hood. Ran it around the side of the car to the window. Pulled on the belt. The car accelerated. Saw it on MacGyver. No, actually I didn't. I learned it on the farm, because on the farm when we drove the hay truck, it didn't have a gas pedal, it had a pulley on the dashboard. You push it in and pull it out for throttle. Back when God was a child. Before dirt was invented. It was a long time ago. And my daughter was amazed, and my son-in-law said, "You're like MacGyver." And I drove it, and the guy said, "If they call me, I'm coming." Where did I learn that? I learned that in the back of a 55 Chevy 4-door, driving down the highway, and up ahead, there was a family of 4, and their parents broken down beside the road, and my father pulled over. My mother said, "Jay, they might be axe murderers." He said, "Honey, they're just broken down. They need some help." And so, 4 adults in the front, 5 children in the back. We drove 50 miles to get a tire fixed. And then he drove us all back and helped him change the tire. Do you think that as a 10-year-old in the back seat, I was paying attention? I mean, I was annoyed at the time. They were smelly. But as an adult, I learned if they call me, I will come. If they're broken down, I will help. Except when my wife was in the car. "Randy, they could be axe murderers." Where did you learn that? I had a real life experience about this question, where did you learn that? I was in Amman, Jordan. It was only my second trip to the Middle East out of the United States, and at that time there was a lot of terrorist activity. In fact, there were beheadings going on. And before I left to go to Jordan, my wife said to me, "Randy, you behave yourself over there, because I don't want your head coming home in a bag." You know they serve free alcohol on those international flights? It's real easy for your head to come home in a different kind of bag. That's a story for another day. Just because it's free doesn't mean you have to drink it. You'll get that in the bag. Quite an experience. I didn't have it. This guy next to me. It was the guy next to me. I didn't know. What was I talking about before I got off on that? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I was in Amman, Jordan, head in the bag. Okay, I got it. I remember where I was. So anyway, I get there, and there's 1,000 people in a district conference in Mont-Ste-Anne, 1,000 Muslims. I'm on the stage. I give my World Championship speech, Lessons from Fat Dad. How many of you have heard of this lesson from Fat Dad? Few of you. It's on YouTube. Just type my name in and pull it up and watch it. Bring your Kleenex. You'll understand after you watch it. Anyway, I gave my speech, and then I did, like I'm going to do in just a minute, I had questions and answers. Fella in the back room over there. Skinny, tall, kind of looked like Harvey. Gray hair on top. He stood up. Did one of these. Dr. Harvey. Now you know when someone addresses you that way. You're in trouble. Dr. Harvey, I came to hear an inspirational speech. He had a really good pregnant father. And it seems to me your speech was just a collection of stories. And the entire audience goes, I mean, they weren't just quiet. They were quiet. They were looking at me like Thanksgiving Thanksgiving dinner on the table. Those golden brown turkeys and the knives, baby. It's coming up. Well, I know what I was hearing in my head. Behave yourself up there so your head doesn't come home in your bag. That's what I was doing. So I did this. Let me ask you a question. This is where it got really. Let me ask you a question. 1,000 Muslims in the room. Right? Let me ask you a question. The Prophet Muhammad. Oh, it was dangerous. The blessings on his name. Did he tell stories? And I was not expecting what the audience did. They all in unison said, yes! Well, you know, I raised hunting dogs as a kid. That was like saying sickens. Just didn't know. I said, the Prophet Jesus, blessings on his name. Did he tell stories? Yes! Well, I was just getting more shot. The Holy Quran, does it have stories? Yes! The Holy Bible, does it have stories? Yes! I said, well, that settles it. God is a storyteller. It's good enough for him. I'm not changing it. You know, here's something. You should write this down. The best offense is a question. When someone puts you on the spot, I learned this. I was negotiating a contract as the chief labor negotiator for a school district with the teachers union, and hadn't had a contract in 2 years. They were looking at me like a Thanksgiving turkey. Because someone was going to pay and it wasn't going to be them. And the person negotiating on the other side, Tony Conklin, known him for 9 years, he was a hard union negotiator. He was also a good guy, honest and fair. And before we went into collective bargaining, he said to me, Randy, it's going to be tough tonight. You're not going to be prepared for what I'm going to do. But don't take it personal. Why do people always say that? Don't take it personal. Personal to who? It's not personal. Well, it is to me. So we're in bargaining. 13 people on his side. He's sitting there at the chair. He's looking at me. And his face is bright red. I'm on the other side, knowing, uh-oh, here it comes. And I'm sitting with all the school board members and the school superintendent looking at me to try to resolve this conflict. We would have a strike notice for 20 hours away. Tony Conklin starts pounding the table. Randy Harvey, you ignorant son of a bitch! What don't you understand about our proposal? I looked at him and I said, Tony, we've known each other for 9 years. You just now figured out I'm ignorant son of a bitch. Everybody laughed when we settled the contract. So sometimes just asking a question is the best defense and the best offense. Ask a question. Let me tell you something. Every major religion in the world, every successful business on the planet teaches their sacred truths, the things that are most important to them, with the story. With the story. Master the story, you master the hearts and minds of your listeners. Why do I say it's important to you to think about who you are? Think about your core values and your beliefs, and to talk about these. And why am I saying to you, tell the story that's uniquely yours about why this truth of yours is so important. Because when you tell your story of the person or the event that made this your truth, that sealed this truth in your heart, when you tell that story, that's a story that no one else can tell. And that's a story that no one else can contradict, because it's your story. Let me finish with this. This is what I believe. This is my core value. One of my core values. When you speak from your heart, the world will listen. When you lead from your heart, the world will follow. And when you live from your heart, you will always know joy.
Ladies and gentlemen, and most especially Randy, when the organizers of this conference put everything together, we wanted to make sure that everyone who attended would have a first-class experience, that you would be exposed to great people, and that the educational time that we spent together would be highlighted by the people of the caliber that you've just heard. I think you understand why. This is the third time we've asked him to come home to District 61. Well, the language from Oregon might be a little bit different. As long as it comes from the heart, it's the same. We get it, we understand it, and therefore, Randy, if I may call you that, Dr. Harvey seems a little bit, you're getting together now. Yeah. We're just going to call you a dear friend. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning you're going to hear more from Dr. Harvey. And again, this is the caliber of the people, especially if you're a first-timer. This is the caliber of the people you have an opportunity to learn from in this organization. Randy, on behalf of everyone here, welcome to Quebec, welcome to District 61. Thank you for a powerful message. We look forward to more tomorrow morning. Ladies and gentlemen, your guests.